I think if I can assure the listeners of anything, it's that from working with you, if you say something that is imperfect, it's probably way better than all of the other stuff that's out there.
Oh, thanks, Jack.
So there's a
that's so
testament
nice of you.
there's a testament to how good this training is going to be.
Oh my gosh, you're so
the
funny.
pressure's on.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast brought to you by Indepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? We got a different host this week. This is Corrin, and with me today is Jack McCarthy, our IndieX team lead. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How's it going, Corrin?
Super duper.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. We are actually the Nashville office. As of this recording, we had a horrendous tornado go through Nashville this week. And so that actually, that it's caused some disruption in the city, of course. And we also moved to a new office. So we're sad and we're celebrating different things.
A whole lot going on this week.
Yeah, it's eventful, to say the least. So, but yeah, it's been, I think it's been a great week. I was able to, check out what Cirque and Jesse talked about last week. And so we wanted to kind of give indies some insight into the trainings that we're producing for this year. And we haven't ever done that before, but I think that it's good for our pro members and non-pro members too, to know like what our plans are. And it also kind of shows the priorities that we have as a company as far as what we think indies should be learning about and becoming skilled at. So I'm excited for it. What about you, Jack? You think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. I think I know amongst the team, we've all been really excited about developing these things and, having a lot of fun brainstorming and talking on it. So I'm excited to share it with the rest of the world.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's funny too, because a lot of this stuff like goes on behind the curtain and you have these moments of like, yes, I got it. And then you have moments of panic where like, it's like, why isn't this working right?
Yep.
As I'm recording things, like the interface suddenly changed, right? Just like business manager changing every 2 weeks. So yeah, it's definitely an exciting process, but I'm stoked to start. So Jack and I both have at least 2 trainings planned for this year. And so I'm gonna go first because I'm selfish. You good with that, Jack?
Let's kick it off.
Okay, great. So I'm actually the first new training that's going to be coming out this year. And I decided to go with Greenlight Warmth Boosting, which if you're already a pro member, then you have access to ground reports. And I did a little 1-hour snippet of Greenlight Warmth Boosting in there. But it's for me, I've always seen people be like, don't press the boost button. Like, don't just boost. And part of me is like, yeah, don't just boost, but also like, there's got to be a way that when you post things, like you can at least get some of the ad spend on it right away. I don't recommend the Facebook ads mobile app because it's really cumbersome. But
it's terrible.
Yeah. So if there was a way that we could have a boost button, right, that is kind of it's an easy button, but it's done well, right? I also think that it would be hopefully helpful to indies who are kind of nervous about ads or like they hear about ads. Like I think most musicians realize like the call to action now is like advertise yourself and get your music out there and you're going to need ads and blah, blah, blah. And they're probably kind of overhearing that. But the ad platform is complicated and it's easy to spend a lot of money and not get what you want out of it. And so I just felt cause to put this together,
For sure, yeah. I think for a lot of people it will fill a big space in what they're doing, with their advertising as a whole and where it fits into the content that they're putting out. I know that's where Greenlight Warmth Boosting really fills a space for our clients at IndieX, so I can definitely speak to that. So I'm sure for the wider indie community, it will be immensely helpful.
Yeah, well, I think too that there's, so there's a couple of things that it can do, right? So, if you're not great at navigating the ad platform just yet, this is kind of like, okay, we're going to get into a little bit of it, right? So for those of the indies who have not yet dug into Fan Finder and haven't dug into a lot of the retargeting campaigns and things like that, this is like, all right, let's baby step you into it. Fan Finder is like getting smacked in the face with a Bible. Like it's just so huge. And it's great. It's robust. And I love that we have something with that amount of complete information in it. I love that it's something that Cirque developed in the first place. But at the same time, I like that it can be kind of an intro for people who might be a little intimidated to dig in that hard right away. I think too, like, as you were saying, Jack, it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like not enough indies realize that there is stuff that you do in between the Fan Finder and then, you're running campaigns for permission to get people's emails or their, SMS information or whatever. And then there's campaigns that you're running to make sales. But if you're not actively running anything like that right now, simply because it's not the time for you, like, then what do you use ads for? Like, do you just keep going for lots and lots of video views and like have no more education happening? Like, do we have to have people's emails to nurture them,
Yep.
And I think it's funny, like a lot of people, you see a Fan Finder and depending on how much of your personality is poured into that Fan Finder, someone may recognize you right off the cuff, right? Because you really caught their attention. But sometimes if you're not that aggressive with your branding and content in that first video, they might need to see you a couple of times before they're ready to give you information or to get excited about what you're doing. So I think the Greenlight warmth boosting kind of helps with that as well, like just keeping people engaged. And I think too, the more that indies kind of get used to spending a few bucks here and there, I mean, Greenlight warmth boosting does not take a huge budget. I think it kind of gets you used to the fact like, okay, I run a business. I constantly need to be doing something to continue acquisition, to continue people down the journey of becoming my fan. And so I hope that this will be a solution for people who are looking for more ways to do that than just through email and organic posting.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it will definitely check all those boxes in my mind. Just, seeing how people talk inside our community, in like the IndiePro community, seeing how people talk about the gap between, like you were saying, like running Fan Finder campaigns and then moving people down to like the permission stages of the buddy system. Trying to find ways to fill that gap can be really challenging for people. And I think, like you said, if you don't have a Fan Finder that really is heavier in brand recognition, where people are introduced to you in a way that they're really introduced, there's work to be done in that gap, in that education phase. And I think a lot of people will benefit from having some campaign ideas, or at the very least knowing how to allocate some of their marketing budget towards that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that it became more clear to me. Obviously I did advertising like before Indepreneur, and, I've been involved in our agency, and, it's not like advertising is new to me, but there was a moment where I realized like, okay, I can keep emailing people things, but there are some people who really don't they just don't care about their email. And I still think email marketing is the number one way to keep in touch with people and to sell things. But for everybody else, like if there's not something significant for me to say, in between those emails, like if I'm emailing once every 2 weeks, I still want to be present in their minds in a very kind of, just by chance type of way. And so formulating your organic posts in a way that is similar to the structure that we put behind Fan Finder, which is don't have this look like an ad, right? Like being able to take all of the content that I'm creating on a regular basis for simple organic posts and then giving it some life, right? Like allowing it to live longer than the algorithm would let it live, which is like 24 hours maybe, right?
Yeah.
So this actually takes like the work and the thought. I mean, I see people who are posting on Instagram like 3 times a day, and it's exhausting. And, if you do that, that's awesome. That's great. But I also feel like if you wanted to only post something really good once a day and then put some ad spend behind it to give it a lift, you'll get more from spending $10 on that post than you'll get from posting 3 times that day,
For sure, yeah.
So yeah, it just gives longevity to all of the things you're creating as an artist. And if your posts are that well curated and you're not just like coming up with bullcrap that nobody wants to see, then more of your fans probably want to see that stuff. They just haven't had as much cause to interact with your profiles, your Facebook and Instagram profiles, because, there's a million other things competing for their inventory. So I think it's really maybe a dark horse kind of thing that you got to keep doing things. And one way to kind of cheat it, right? Or like put less pressure on yourself to create lots of amazing content all the time so that it's right at the top of the algorithm is to put a little bit of spend on it.
I totally think that makes sense. And I think it kind of takes the pressure off a little bit of having to make sure that each and every content piece, is perfect. Or rather having the volume of content that's like great. It allows you to focus in on, okay, rather than making, 15 knock it out of the park posts every week on all of my socials, I can focus on, making 5 or 6 and make sure that they really crush it and then put some spend behind it, rather than, spreading yourself thin and ending up having crap that nobody really cares to see.
Right. And some people are great. Like, don't get me wrong. Some people are great at coming up with lots of content and posting it all the time. And, it never feels like they were at a loss for what to say. Right.
Sure.
Like, that's not always the case. But for me, that is something that really helped me kind of keep up momentum. And in fact, it was funny because since I'm getting ready for this greatest hits, cycle, I archived every one of my Instagram posts over the weekend. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to do this, and part of me was really torn about it. And the other part of me was like, no, this is okay, because some of these posts were filler posts and they weren't necessarily educating my audience. If they were to go to my IG profile, like, was it saying what I wanted it to say? And I'm not going to get all into like, the IG aesthetic and brand guiding and all of that stuff, because that's a whole other ball of wax. But I realized, like, as people were scrolling down my profile, some of it was just like, would not be interesting to anyone who wasn't there in the moment with me. So this kind of allows me to start fresh and be like, all right, I've got every piece of content planned for this release. I know what products I'm going to be pointing to. I know what tracks I'm going to be pointing to. I know what attitude and color scheme I want to be cohesive in here. Like, and when I put boost behind it, everybody's going to see like almost every single one of these posts. Everyone in my ecosystem is going to see them. And so, I think that I really underestimated like how freeing that would be for me as someone who isn't great at just like, I'm going to whip up this post right quick and it's going to be great and everyone's going to go, it's going to go viral, like that's not happened for me
right,
ever, unless I, happen to get a picture of someone famous or something. And then it was just like a byproduct. But for the most part, I hope that this will help people feel less pressure to create all of this amazing content every single day, and instead see, some life come from just a few dollars.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I can't wait to crack into it myself.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So anyway, so that's my first training. Jack, I'm dying to hear, I don't remember what your first one is. So lay it on me, man.
Yeah. So let's drop the secret. The first training that I'm going to be putting together this year is actually set to release in August. And it is a training on the permission stage of the buddy system, crafting your permission stage. And I'm really, really excited about putting together a training on this because I think it's been a big need for indies, both inside of our community and outside indie pros, and not. There's a lot of question marks here. And just to, lay it out on the podcast here, the permission stage of the buddy system, if you don't know, is the stage of the buddy system where you're working on taking people who know who you are, have dove into what you're all about, and you're building up goodwill with them, building relationships. And the next step is to get some one-to-one contact info, get the phone number, get the email address, and start building up your lists. And over the past 2 years, I've been seeing a lot of questions from folks saying, "How do I do that?" A lot of people have been using, our Ultimate Album Launch training kind of as their first step into doing permission, and in some cases, not really using it to its fullest, or not really in a place where that should be the strategy that they should be tapping into. So I see a big need for a training that's going to address, how to work towards getting people to raise their hands and say, I want to talk with you one-to-one. I want to email with you. I want to text with you, whatever that might look like.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked to dive into the training. It's going to be covering a lot of things, from, crafting your bribe, crafting your lead magnet, what a good lead magnet looks like, and what musicians can be thinking about in terms of crafting their bribes and how they can structure it, which I think a lot of people get hung up on. But it really is just an extension of your creativity, and that's something that I've talked about in the group and on Indies Lives and in Ground Reports, similar to how you've done with Greenlight warmth boosting. I've done similar sort of mini trainings on this as well, but I'm pretty stoked to package it into one cohesive module that I think will be really, really, really informative.
Yeah, a bona fide, top to bottom. I feel the same way too about all my trainings. I'm like, we've talked about these, but have we really, plus, in Ground Reports, there's a lot in there, right? So it can be a lot to go through in a way that, indies are like, okay, well, I see what the title is, but what is the goal associated with that? Or, it might be overwhelming. So
for sure,
especially because now Ground Reports are going back a long time. So there's not just a few in there to sort through anymore. So, I'm excited about that. I haven't been on the podcast for 2 weeks, so it's time to talk about Indie Founder. So,
yes.
But that's something huge that we see with Indie Founder. And a lot of people are like, gosh, do I give away a song, the free download thing? Does that work? How do I craft something that actually feels special, right? Because there's just so much content that artists are pushed to create now. There's so much music. There's so much, all of this stuff, right? And so how do you make something that is truly, something that they're like, yeah, I'm in, I want that, sign me up. So I think that that's a great component of this training and something that I'm really looking forward to, just because I know that so many our founders and just general indies in the group, this is something that they struggle with on a regular basis.
Yeah, for sure. And it's pretty cool. This is something that you and I have talked about ad nauseum, is just how different parts of Indepreneur sort of inform all of the other parts. So the fact that same sort of feedback is coming from the indie founders is, it was a big waving red flag to put this together, do the thing.
Totally. Well, I think too, that's something that, I don't know, when I think about in week 7 of Indie Founder, right? It's an 8-week session. And in week 7, we talk about merch, and we kind of set up a sample budget of all of the things that you need to do, that you need to plan for budget-wise, with estimates of what percentage of this will convert and what percentage of these will convert, and how much is this, how much does your video view cost, and how much is, And one thing that will drastically take a funnel, and I know I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but one thing that will drastically take a funnel from break even or even negative to profitable is that list, is that permission-based list. So if you are, thinking about, okay, how do I break even on this funnel? Keep in mind that if you're keeping your list nice and fresh, right? You're emailing them constantly, you're whittling it down so that it's only passionate people. You can count a lot on that email list to make a lot of your sales, right? Those are the people who are at the closest. Whereas getting someone through a video, through a fan finder and then through a permission opt-in and then getting them to purchase, true, the ultimate album launch strategy or funnel that we have in our training absolutely can do that, but not everybody's going to do that, right? You can't necessarily assume that. So it's way easier if you have a list that you've nurtured to get them to make the sale. And honestly, that's all I've done so far for my greatest hits record. All I've done is email my people. That's it. Well, I posted it on social organic and didn't put any money on it. And that brought in a good, healthy amount of pre-orders, So that's something that if you really have to focus on getting those people in that list, keeping them engaged on that list, because that's where your short reach to sales is, So I'm super stoked that you're putting it all in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really solid, especially for people who, don't necessarily have a launch to be working on, and they might be scratching their heads and saying like, well, what do I do now? Like, I don't really have a record to launch or a product to launch, but like, I want to be moving my fans to the next stage in relationship with me in a way that's, when it comes time to launch something, that I can talk to them directly and not have to, rely on paying to get in front of them again, which is,
Right.
logical. That's totally what you want.
Absolutely.
So I think that this is going to be a really good training just to give people ideas of what they can be doing, before a launch or after a launch even. There's a lot of opportunity to be getting people on your list, not just with one type of lead magnet or one type of campaign, but multiple. For a lot of our IndieX artists, we have multiple permission campaigns running at once. That's just
Right.
that's what happens as you grow your business. Not one type of lead magnet offer is going to appeal to a whole subset of your fans. It's not going to appeal to everybody. So that's something that we're going to talk about as well, and then go deeper into what kind of traffic do you want to be. What kind of traffic do you want to be tapping into for your permission offers? Are you going to be using ads? Are you going to be using organic? Are you going to focus mostly on people that are hanging out on YouTube? Where are you going to focus your efforts? So we're going to go into all of that and really just talk about the pros and cons of all of those sorts of things based on where you're at.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing that you just mentioned, that you're, multiple customer avatars are going to be good for different permission campaigns, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's something that, I think indies get really stuck in that, like from Fan Finder on, right? They're like, these are what my fans look like,
Yep.
and they listen to this kind of music, and, they get very tunnel vision with it. And the thing is, like, there's going to be people, if you're doing it right, if you're advertising properly, there are going to be people who come into your fan base who are very different. And the more different, and everybody's different, right? I know everyone's unique. I'm not saying
We're all very special.
Yes, everyone is very special. I know I'm special. But as far as like your customers, you're probably going to start seeing them kind of lump into some categories, right? And that'll help you make better offers for those people. And I think a lot of musicians are like, oh, well, this is what my fan looks like, this kind of person. Or maybe, they have one or two, but they don't necessarily think about like, oh, I should create different types of products, different kinds of offers, different kinds of permission stage level things for these different people, so that way no one is being left in the dark. If you've got a utilitarian kind of avatar, right? Like a person who likes to purchase or opt in for things that are very usable, right? There's something like that's where the music comes in. That's utilitarian. But maybe there are people who like floofy stuff, who want behind the scenes and want lyric stories. And, there's a whole other kind of thing there. So you can do all of it together, right? And just then have one offer. But sometimes it can be cool to like laser focus those permission offers to people who are going to be more specifically invested in one piece rather than giving them, the arrest of choice, right? And having to decide which one they like the best. So yeah, I think I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where it's at. And I think like just as a general point of advice that like I would make for indies that find themselves in that place is like, look at the artists that you love. Like one of my favorite artists is a singer, John Bellion. I love John Bellion's music, and the reason that I got super into him to begin with was because he does these super dope behind-the-scenes studio videos, making his songs, putting the beats together, writing them. It's really, really awesome, and that was what hooked me to him. So imagine me as like a producer, songwriter myself, and why I fell in love with an artist like that. And then you've got, a listener who likes John Bellion, but has nothing to do with producing music, has never touched an instrument, just loves
They just think he's cute.
Yeah. They think he's cute. They love the music. Maybe they love going to shows, and they're one of those tour follower type of people.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not that.
Groupie type.
Yeah, I'm certainly not that, but I have, there's people out there that are like that. So
I'm that for Highly Suspect. If they want to call me, I'm totally that. I would follow Highly Suspect.
If they want to call me, just a quick shout out to Highly Suspect. Call me,
I'm looking in the lens of the camera right now, hoping that they'll call me.
So imagine the types of permission stage bribes that those two different types of fans would be attracted to.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that artists need to think about. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to be diving into in this training.
I love that. I know I've talked about it before, but like my fans are lumped into like, you know, girls from 13 to 24-ish, and then a lot of middle-aged men, you know, especially 45 to 54. And of course, I'm using the Facebook numbers. I'm not like, you know, averaging those ages myself.
Sure.
But obviously, those two crowds like what they hear, and like me as a person, hopefully, is why they're partly in it for entirely different reasons, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe there are some of them who are, you know, military fans. And so you could have those in, you know, either the younger crowd or in the older crowd. They could be military active duty, or they could be veterans. And then there could also be people who like the fact that I never wear things that match, you know, like I was walking around with Jesse yesterday, and I was like, why is that kid staring at me from that car? And he was like, 'cause you're dressed pretty eccentrically. And I was like, no, I'm not. Am I? And he was like, look at what you're wearing. Like I was wearing like multiple patterns and multiple colors. Right. So anyway, that's enough about me. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff that you can pull from insight into your audience. And it's not just, 18 or 13 to 24 women and 45 to 54-year-old men, right? Maybe there are people in there who really respect female bass players from both. Maybe there are people who really like female rock singers in both. So like there's a million different ways that you can kind of divvy up people and create permission offers that really suit them. So I'm thrilled to see you dive into that, because I know we have some agency clients who probably have a little bit of a run of many different demographics within their fan base. And so you've probably had some experience doing that.
Yeah, for sure. It's there's just the amount of creativity that you can pour into it is about the same amount of creativity that you should be pouring into actually making your music. And when you can tap into that, all of a sudden it becomes really fun and not overwhelming, and not trying to fit your brand into a blueprint or something like that. We'll certainly go into plays that we've seen work for agency clients, for founders, for testing grounds artists, for all of that. And we'll go over some things that you can do that, sort of fit a formula. But the goal here is really to not fit indies into a formula when it comes to getting opt-ins. It's about moving them from thinking about like the step-by-step to how can I take what's in front of me and make it my own.
Right, exactly. How to learn the skills to be creative in that aspect of their career as well. I love that. Awesome.
So yeah, it's gonna be very cool.
Yeah. So you're saying that's coming in August?
Yes.
Tight. Mine is coming out in April. So I forgot to say that, but that's when Greenlight Warmth Boosting is coming. It's in April. I actually don't know when Circa has me slotted for this next training, but I'm so excited about it because I feel like we get requests for it on a regular basis through email and on socials and in the group. And we're constantly being asked if we have this. So it was pretty much a no-brainer to be like, we need an add-on. We need a training on these. So YouTube ads, Google ads.
Yeah,
we're constantly
great.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. The reason why we always talk about Facebook/IG over YouTube is because there are many more powerful things that you can do with the consumption and the retargeting of high consumption. But that said, some people are really worried about their YouTube channel, and they need methods to figure out how to get their stuff out there. And it is, becoming more and more of a platform where it's a good idea to be on there, because especially if you're using, not to give away what the training is about, and some of the training I still need to suss out because the ads platform over on Google is changing consistently as well. But, like if you're using in-stream ads, for example, there are plenty of cafes and other small businesses who are playing music overhead, and it's feeding from a YouTube stream, and they don't skip around. So sometimes ads will play. I've been in cafes where I know that a YouTube ad is playing because it's not music. But if you put your video of your music in that place, nobody's going to skip it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly.
Now, that's not necessarily a great exposure, right? It's not like somebody necessarily is going to be super stoked on it, but if they like it, they could Shazam it. They could, there's a million ways that could still be beneficial, aside from just racking up those YouTube views. So I'm excited to kind of shed a light on that, and not just YouTube ads, but also Google ads. So how the heck do you work all of these things together? You've got Google Analytics, you've got your YouTube channel, you've got Google Merchant Center, you've got Google Shopping ads, display ads, and like keyword ads if you wanted to go there, which we're probably not going to recommend, but there's a lot in there, and there's a lot of different things that you need to have talking to each other in order to make this stuff work. If you're an indie and you've run Google ads before, you've probably had trouble getting your URL cleared. You may have had some issues with like your domain because it's not a domain that you own. So how do you work around that? So there's a lot of different things that I think has been confusing. And to be honest, some of my best display ads, like photos and product retargeting, are my Google ads. More than Facebook in some cases. And that's because it shows everywhere. One of my highest rated placements in one of the most recent Google ads I ran was retargeting people who had viewed the CD preview for this greatest hits in their Gmail box.
Wow.
That was the most successful conversion.
Talk about granular.
I know. It was crazy. And so that's, I think, one reason why it's like, listen, we want you to get into Facebook and IG. One, because it's so much more user-friendly. It was built that way on purpose. Whereas Google's like, nah, if you don't know what you're doing, just don't even bother.
Yeah, for sure.
So they've kind of filtered people out. But once you get in there, the tools are just remarkable. So there is still some stuff between YouTube and Google ads. Like some of the retargeting is not... It's not one-to-one what you see with Facebook, like, 75% video view. Okay, I'll retarget them. It's not as easy as all that. But I do think that it's something that indies need to know. They need to know how to get their store into Merchant Center. They need to know how to be able to retarget people who have viewed their product in more places than just Facebook can reach.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's going to be it's definitely well requested. I see so many people asking, like, what about YouTube ads? How do I grow my YouTube channel?
Right.
Where do I do this? How do I even start? So I think having some blueprints on that would be really, really great. And just giving people a roadmap, because like you said, Google is it's certainly a different beast. Having spent a good amount of time in the Google Ads platform, it can be really overwhelming, more so than Facebook in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of different pieces, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but for those of you who are rusty on it, they're far more of an acquisition monster, right, than Facebook. They've been around longer. They've been doing this a longer time. And so as Google has gobbled up things, I love saying Google gobbled. So
that's a great phrase.
Google gobbled. But as
Trademark.
Google gobbled up, yeah, exactly. I'm a hashtag that. But as Google has kind of acquired all of these other tools, they're like, oh, that development is awesome. And we love the developers of this company and we love this. And so they've just kind of absorbed them. And then this is totally my projection, right? This is just what I'm thinking happened based on the structure. But it really seems like they acquired these things and then they were like, let's slap a Google on it and put it back out there. Because it works, don't break it,
Yeah.
So the same thing happened. Like I own a lot of Nest products, right? They're smart home products. So like my thermostat, my fire alarms, my carbon monoxide things, my locks on my house, like all of it is Nest. And recently Google Google acquired Nest. So now it's Google Nest, but it's still Nest, and it's still all of the exact same products. They just slapped Google on it. So in the same way, I think, their analytics platform, their Merchant Center, YouTube as well, because YouTube is Google owned, all of these things were acquired later. And therefore, Google is more about, okay, now we're just going to put the Google name on it, figure out the minimum viable product to have it sync up to what we do, and then stick it back out there. Whereas, with Facebook, they're far more about like, okay, we want this to be a Facebook thing. And so we're going to wrap it up in Facebook. And, like that's why IG advertising is still rolling out, still catching up, because Facebook's like, nope, it's either going to be exactly the way we would do it on Facebook or it's not going to be available.
Yeah, for sure. Even with like the upcoming Messenger merges between Facebook Messenger, IG, and WhatsApp.
Exactly.
You can see the same principle apply there.
It's been a long time coming, and they're pretty. I don't know if it's a marketing tactic or if it's just the way they want to do things. If it's transparency, I feel like it wouldn't be transparency if it's Facebook, but they'll tell you for 2 years when something's going to happen, when they bought something, when they acquired something, when it's now Instagram by Facebook, right?
Yeah.
So I do feel like they're more going to tell you about what's coming, whereas Google's like, this is Google now. We own this now. So that, all of that said, I think that's, if I had to, kind of try to just guess why these things are so cumbersome, like Google Merchant Center was its own thing. Google Tag Manager was its own like software. There was, Google Analytics was probably more of the OG, like Google product. And so they're and then Gmail and all of these things, right, are just like kind of getting lumped in together. And weren't necessarily developed by the same people to work together. Because for the life of me, like think about your Facebook, right? You've got a pixel, you've got an ad account, you've got a catalog, you've got all of these things attached in one interface. When it comes to Google, it's not so
like
much a
that.
thing.
No.
You've got an ads account, you've got a Google Merchant account, you've got an analytics account, and these are all separate accounts. They can all be under a Google account, but they all need to be created individually and then linked to each other purposefully.
Yeah.
So it's very, very different. So anyway, I really had an interest, especially once I saw how Google Ads were doing in my more recent campaigns, especially the display network and in Gmail ads. I was just like, I can't just keep this to myself, and I might not be able to, like, when you put out a training, you really want it to just be like, this is the end all be all of this topic, which is ridiculous because there's no way we're ever going to be able to do that for anything, but I've been experimenting in Google Ads long enough that I was like, this changes so much all the time. And like, I feel so unequipped to share this information because it's, I'm still learning and it's still developing. But I think I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm okay with just embracing the imperfection of, how much I know and I think I just need to be really transparent about what I don't know, what I haven't tested, and at least give the indies some starting point to work with, And so that's kind of my goal with this training. So we can at least give everyone the bare minimum to start working on that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with that in mind, that platform, like the Google Ads platform and Google platforms in general, are changing so much that you almost have to embrace the fact that this is going to change. This is going to be incomplete. This is going to be
right?
This is going to be totally different in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is. That's just the reality of the digital marketing space.
I know, but Jack, you and everyone else at Indepreneur knows that I don't embrace a half baked. What I like for me, if I don't know something perfectly, I'll think it's half baked. I'm really bad. And Serge says that all the time. He is like, you just gotta fall on your face and then like get back up, yo. And I'm like, yes, but if I can avoid falling on my face forever, then my face isn't scratched. And he's like, yes, but then you'll have not moved forward.
Failing forward is a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm here to embrace it with all y'all, right? Like we all got to do it, and me too. So now and I don't mean to say that this training is going to be junk and I'm just going to be like, I don't know, go to Google. Like it's not going to be like that. But I do think that, it's formulated enough where I feel like I can really give indies something, that they need access to. And as it develops, we'll post more updates and develop it further.
I think if I can assure the listeners of anything, it's that from working with you, if you say something that is imperfect, it's probably way better than all the other stuff that's out there.
Oh, thanks, Jack.
So there's a
that's so
testament
nice of you.
there's a testament to how good this training is going to be.
Oh my gosh, you're so
the
funny.
pressure's on.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but I am excited about it. I think even, it's funny, a lot of indies are asking for YouTube ads, but I'm really more excited about the other half of it, which is going to be very specifically Google ads, Google retargeting ads. I think that it's something that can be really difficult to fire off, right? Like a lot of people will build certain Google campaigns and they won't see it firing, or they can't figure out what their bidding optimization is. And it's very, very different from Facebook. So even if you have some good digital marketing knowledge, you need specific Google ad knowledge. It's just kind of, I think they build it that way on purpose. So hopefully this will give everyone a place to start. And just like they have done with Facebook ads, get creative, because once you go through that hard part of learning a new platform, that's when you can start pivoting and kind of making guesses and testing things and having more fun with it.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm stoked on it. All right.
I can't wait.
That's going to be coming in the fall. I'm not sure when. Maybe in the summer. Late summer, early fall. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's a secret.
A rolling calendar.
Yes, exactly. So, Jack, you have one other one for this year, right?
I do, yeah. I have another training coming in the fall as well. And
What is it?
I'm pretty excited about this one. This one is on promotional calendar and sales promos. Building out your promotion calendar, building out sales promos, what you should be doing, why you should be doing it. And really, where this is coming in, it's answering a pretty specific question or a specific problem that I've been seeing, similar to what we were seeing with like the permission stage of the buddy system. Is what do you do once you have a list?
Yeah.
What do you do with customers when you're not launching new music, when you're not selling, when you're not selling tour date tickets or whatever? What are you doing with your list? And what are you doing to move them further into a relationship with you, whether that be ascending them into becoming repeat customers, or whether that means just segmenting them into a different place in your ecosystem and finding out more about what they're interested in. So this training is going to be pretty cool. It's going to go beyond just selling things and more into, promotional training, promotional calendar building training as a whole. Figuring out, what kind of campaigns should I be running? Should they just be strictly sales, or should I have off months where I'm trying to just give people more content, and how can I be doing that? Where does that fit into a promo calendar? Also, on the sales side of things, what kind of sales can you be running? When does it make sense to discount things versus when does it make more sense to just build up your offer more? How do you craft an irresistible offer? We're going to be going into all of that sort of stuff in this training. So I'm super excited about it because it's something that we get to do a lot of at IndieX, especially with our artists who have been, in it for a while and, have a built up customer base, have a pretty sizable fan base to be building new offers, building new products, and putting together a really badass merch store. I think it's good to lay the groundwork for indies at all stages. So that's what I'm really looking forward to with it.
Yeah, I think when you're first starting out, it can be, we see like two problems, right? We see like artists creating merch that's like the bare line, right? So it's like CDs and the matching t-shirt and a coffee mug that goes with it. End of inventory list,
Right.
And then we have indies who are like, yeah, I got my CD, and then I've got 50,000 on-demand products that no one will ever choose, but I want to make sure they have the option, And so it's still all T-shirts, or whatever. So I think it's really great that you're going to be putting something together where we're not just talking about how you decide a sale, right? Like your birthday becomes a sale day now. It's also like, how do you create things that are authentically exciting because it's happening at this time, I'm excited to see what you do because obviously I've seen some of the things you've done with our agency clients, and it's interesting for me. It's so easy to look back at what you've done on these bigger artists and be like, oh yeah, I could totally see how he got there. But I don't actually see how you got there. I see how where you got makes sense for where you're going,
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I'm excited to see you lay out like, okay, this is how we do,
For sure. Yeah. I'm looking forward to doing that. I think it's going to be, pretty insightful. And I'm hoping to just give people a blueprint that they can start to work off of not so much what to do, but more so how to think about it and really just dive into their creativity that way. Because again, like permission offers, affirmation or ascension offers, sales offers, they're just an extension of your creativity, just like any other parts of your marketing are.
Right.
So having a framework to think about it, how to craft offers, when to make certain offers, how to build out a calendar that makes sense for where you're at, and how to do all of that in a way that doesn't drive you absolutely mad.
Right.
I think is a really valuable skill set to have.
So yeah, I mean, just thinking about what we've talked about so far this episode, I'm actually really excited because like hearing it in a row like this, and I literally did not think about it till right this moment, is that like your trainings are very centered around like, okay, I'm not going to blueprint this for you, but I am going to blueprint it, but I'm not going to build it. And I think it's something where like Fan Finder method it has some blueprint elements to it, but it's mostly like a step-by-step. It's a formulaic layout.
Yep.
Ultimate Album Launch is a very formulaic layout, whereas this is like you're teaching the man to fish. Like
precisely.
You're like, okay,
yep.
I don't know who you are. I don't know your artistry, but you do. And so here's the ways that you break things down so that you can then create. And I think that that's really cool. And then mine are more like, okay, we're going to step by step through this bitch. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I'm just, not to get gushy, but like, this is why I love our company is that we have people who do both. And I think indies need both. And so I'm just super stoked on all of the training that we have coming out this year, especially, the ones that Cirque and Jesse were talking about last week as well. Like, I just think that it's going to be fantabulous. Now, that said, indies, this does not mean that these are the only things that will be happening this year. It just means it's the things we have on the docket as like, this is going to happen, But that said, there's going to be all kinds of other things happening throughout the year. 2020 is going to be absolutely great. So if you have suggestions or things that you wish that you heard from us, right? Like things that you're like, oh, I wish they would have said this training. We're on Twitter, believe it or not, because I love Twitter. So hit us up on Twitter, which is Indepreneur_IO. Or hit us up on IG, right? Both IG and Facebook are just /Indepreneur. And tell us what you want to see trainings for in the coming year. Even though we've got a lot of these mapped out, there's a lot more to come that we could easily do some ground reports on that stuff, as well as, just talk about some other topics for next year. So I hope that you've kind of gleaned some of the crystal ball era that's going on here at Indepreneur. That's all I got. Jack, you want to say anything else to the indies?
I think that's pretty much all I've got as well. I can't wait to get this stuff out into the world. Honestly, it's super duper exciting. Can't wait to share. I think, like you said, Corrin, there's going to be a lot of synergy going on between these trainings. And all that I hope is that it just gives people the connecting pieces wherever they're at and whatever they're working on to really take things into their own hands. That's the big goal as I'm thinking about putting together these trainings. So I can't wait. I hope you guys can't wait. It's going to be a really, really awesome 2020.
Yar. All right. So that's enough sitting around. Let's get back to work.
That's
see you
a
next
wrap.
week, indies. We'll see you next week on Creative Juice.